We've got the fantastic Laura, Group Spa Manager, Aqua Sana Forest Spa Group, here with us today to give us some insights using her incredible knowledge and experience. Laura, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I think a lot of people are very interested in your role, learning more about you, people who are getting to know you. So, obviously, before we crack on and get into some of the insights you're going to share, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey into the spa and wellness industry, please?
Yeah, of course. So I started back when I was 16 and I literally became a therapist. So I actually worked and studied up in Scotland at the time. So I was living in Scotland and I studied to, level 2 and level 3 beauty therapy. And when I qualified, I went to work in the Fairmont in St Andrews in Scotland, which was
Cool.
it's a great place for me to start my career because obviously their standards kind of set the standard for me straight from the get go, and it was probably one of the best jobs in terms of starting my career because that is where I kind of grounded my fundamental operational standards and that premium luxury expectation that was there. And so I started as a beauty therapist there, and then I went and did a bit of traveling when I was about 19, 20, and then I travelled across to Australia and worked in Australia as a therapist actually.
Oh,
So I did,
cool.
yeah, so I did a working holiday visa for around a year, and I worked in Melbourne, and I worked on one of the Whitsunday Islands. So I worked at Daydream Island, which was again amazing location. Doing pedicures out on the beach, the seafront, which was just amazing. And then when I came back home, I then realised I wanted a little bit more from life, and as you do at 21, I would have been, and I decided to relocate down to what I thought was London at the time. I went to work for Champneys, and I was based in Tring, so more
Mhm.
Hertfordshire than London. But at the time, I thought I was going to the big smoke. And I worked there as a day manager. So that was my first sort of role in terms of operational management, which was a great company to start from that aspect because we had 56 treatment rooms at the time, so it was a big operation to sort of supervise on a day-to-day basis, a big team. So I worked there for a few years, and then I went into managing one of their day spas as well. So and then about 12 and a half years ago now, I then started at Center Parcs. So a new site was opening in Woburn, so
Mhm.
our Woburn village, and I was part of the opening team there. So I started as assistant manager. And I looked after the treatment team there. So we grew it from 0 to about 80 therapists for when we opened. And then I worked on that village for around 10 years. So I was part of the furniture really. So I sort of worked my way up into deputy manager, and then I managed the business for around 6.5 years at Woburn. And then about 2.5 years ago, I was promoted to group spa manager, which is my role today. So a nice varied journey, but yeah, hands on, very from the very get go, and then worked in some great operations to give me that sort of background knowledge for what I do today.
And also, you threw in a bit of an international stint in there as well. So you
Absolutely,
can use it to go abroad, can't you? It's
yes,
such a adaptable trade everywhere. There are
yeah.
spas or beauty salons or something.
Yeah, it was one of the best things I did, to be honest. And the fact that because I picked up so many different skills over there that I hadn't yet formed in the UK, and it just taught me so much, from, being fast paced or new different treatments that I'd never experienced. Yeah, it was great learning opportunity. So.
So, what can you tell us? Obviously, everyone's very interested. A group spa manager. So,
Yes.
what's a typical week actually look like for you? Is there
I
a
always,
typical week? That should be actually what I
no.
should have asked.
Yeah.
Should have been the question.
There is never a typical week, I would say. I think from um every every couple of weeks is always different. So I have a bit of a hybrid role where I at times can be working from home. I travel to events, networking events. I travel to the villages. So I'm on villages sort of every other week, seeing the teams on each of our villages across the UK and Ireland. And then I go to our Forest House, which is our head office, based up in near our Sherwood location. So it is very varied across the board, and the elements of my role is very varied. So I always sort of come back to that I'm kind of the operational and technical expert for the business. So that can be anything from, day to day, if I'm on village, day to day meeting the teams, talking about driving the strategy forward, or having one-to-ones with the general managers or the operations managers on the site, doing standards audits, anything from that aspect, to then managing bigger projects and looking at innovation for the future spas, or for or for any future projects or experiences moving forward. So there is lots of variety to my role, which I really enjoy. I'm never bored within that space, because actually one day I can be talking about something completely different 5 minutes later. So I thoroughly enjoy it, and I love that I still get that hands-on people aspect, as well as also having the ability to innovate and set best practice for within our own spas. I think it's really important that I've been hands-on. And I've been there and I've done it. I've been a therapist, so I can understand from that level, but I can also understand the operation in its entirety, because I've done, every single role or aspect to that on the sites as well. So I understand what will work and maybe what won't work, and then how we adapt to set best practice for the group.
That's incredible. And you say you can't get bored because there's so much variety. I don't think you can get bored because you're so busy.
There might be that too. Absolutely.
I think it's interesting because, like, when you get to a certain level in your career, you do think, what's your next step? And when you have been running the same operation for a particular period of time, going into a group role gives you back that variety, but also you can reuse that experience that you've got.
Absolutely.
And that confidence in your knowledge that you've also taken over the time.
Yeah.
I guess what the next thing that is, you work in quite a high volume environment as well, don't you? And I think that's another big position in your role is, how do you balance that with the sort of commercial performance? And you touched on the standards as well a second ago. You're really keen on the standards. How do you balance the commercial side with the guest experience?
I've always said, for me, like, commercial performance and guest experience aren't competing priorities. They're like completely connected, especially in like a high volume spa environment like ours. So we never shy away from the fact that we are a social spa, and but strong commercial sort of results only happen when the experience is sort of calm, consistent, and generally it's sort of enjoyable from a guest perspective. So I think that is, for me, it has to go hand in hand. There isn't another path as such. So my approach is always experience first and let the revenue follow. So if the operation feels rushed, overstretched, transactional, guests will feel that immediately. Like the term sort of cattle market or anything like that would horrify me. So for me, it is about getting the operation to be as efficient as possible, but having the right people in the right places is really key. Capacity management, and just making sure that the teams feel supported and not under pressure, so they deliver better service, and then the overall environment feels better. And I think from a revenue aspect, if you are having all the right people in the right places delivering the great service that we expect, the revenue comes in naturally. So like a great example of it for us is like we deliver wellbeing activities throughout the operation on a day-to-day basis. They are completely complementary to the guests, and it's part of so they're part of the guest experience. However, they provide a lot of education and a lot of value for money from a guest perspective, but from a financial perspective, obviously we get a lot of retail off the back of that as well. Or it might inspire a guest to book another treatment, for example. So there are, through experience then comes commercial results. So that's kind of my approach with everything in that regards.
It was really interesting when I came to Longmeat. Obviously, it was busy, but it never felt busy. Like I could go into any
Yeah,
of the thermal experiences, and I didn't feel like I was,
yeah,
confined in there. And like you say, when if something did look a little, oh, I'll come back later, you could go
hmm,
do a well-being session, and
yeah.
that would sort of give you a completely different experience, which I absolutely loved your well-being sessions. The guy who did it was fantastic.
Oh,
Like the
good.
energy and enthusiasm he put in, it was experience first.
Yeah,
Like there was no hands down though. Although I understood, and I hope the guests probably do, I see it's a revenue generator, hands down.
yeah,
But he did it experience first,
yeah,
and that's what's super important.
yeah. 100%, 100%. Yeah,
And so with
absolutely.
that in mind, like how do you then, obviously you've got the thermal areas that what you want to make those feel like they're not over capacity. How do you do it with your team as well, with scheduling and things like that without making it overloading for your team?
Yeah, so we've actually done quite a lot of work over this over the last couple of years. And it's the first time that we're ever really using sort of a data-led but people-first approach. So, I suppose previously, I think if we can kind of go back a little bit to, the old Excel rotors that you might have had in the past, or the old people management systems, obviously that was very, not a data-led approach, whereas now we have systems that are able to help us, maximize and forecast on our demand, and we can plan therapist scheduling and utilization more intelligently than we ever have before. But the key thing for us to make sure that, yes, we are being as efficient as we possibly can, but it's a people-led first approach. So for example, we've set some rules in the systems to be able to make sure that people do have a really good work-life balance as well, so that it is, you're not feeling like you're getting burnt out or working, too many days or too late at nights all on the same frequency. Or
Yeah.
so we've built in rules so that our systems just don't allow that to happen, which hopefully then in turn helps with the whole piece of this. So yes, we are being, we're listening to the data, but we also have rules in place to be able to protect our team and get that really nice balance between both.
So this is this piece. Sorry, I'm really interested by this because I love data. So
Yeah, yeah,
you don't you because you've got such large teams on site, you don't use spreadsheets. You use a piece of tech that's
yeah,
in the background looking at your demand forecasting, but
yeah.
also looking at your scheduling requirements and implementing rules to protect your team. Is that what you have?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it builds into like our payroll system, and we've just really started the therapist scheduling efficiencies, and trying to build that into sort of being able to forecast what we need when we need them, but also having that layered approach to say, well, actually, they can't do this or they can't do that because we want to protect the people as well. So yes,
Wow,
yeah,
so it will
it's
literally.
amazing.
Sorry, I'm amazed by this. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah,
literally do all the scheduling for you, so you're not having someone sat there playing the game of Tetris, moving things
not
around,
we're
and
yeah
you
we've
check
moved
that.
forward from we moved forward from an Excel document, let's just say, or a paper, whatever people have used in the past. Yes, it's all, and we could just double check it, and we can still tweak and change if it's not quite right, or whatever. We can still tweak and change that. So yeah,
That's incredible. I mean, I've been out the industry hands-on for 5 years. I've got a
yeah,
five-year-old, so everyone else is
yeah,
probably using these, but I was
yeah.
still using spreadsheets
Yeah,
5 years
yeah,
ago.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's
Oh,
but yeah, no, it's great. It's a great tool for us now.
incredible,
Mm.
incredible. I think that's one of the things that people are sort of looking at is how they can maximize their diary, and that's obviously something that people also spend some time focusing on. But one of the other things that lots of people focus on is retail.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
once you've got your diary set up right and scheduling,
Yeah.
how are you doing retail at Center Parcs? You know, I know that you've got those touch points with those well-being sessions and classes that you run, but how do you view retail from a Center Parcs point of view?
Yeah, I think for me, it's a little bit similar to what I said earlier. I think it's not just at one key point. So it's not just retail sales don't just happen in the retail boutique, for example. That happens in little segments throughout the full guest journey. So, from the wellbeing discovery sessions or activities that I've spoken about to small surprise and delight moments, that might be something that we might, take some product into the spa to do some nice complimentary hand and arm massages, for example, or maybe offering some smaller, product sampling at certain points, depending on what we might be looking at promoting that day, or if we have, a new product launching, for example. But it enhances how that guest feels at every single stage. So we want for me, it's about those little key moments that make it really memorable for a guest rather than, a sales pitch at a retail desk, for example, or a sales pitch at the end of a treatment. It's every single thing that's happened throughout the journey that kind of creates that overall retail result. And it's the same with the treatment within a treatment room. I know this isn't new to anyone, but the journey from a retail aspect in a treatment room kind of happens in the consultation and kind of spreads through the treatment journey, not just at the end as they're leaving to walk away to a relaxation room, for example. And I believe that it's the same within the guest journey itself in spa. And that's kind of how I look at it. It's at every single moment, and that can be, not just retail from a product house perspective, from a product perspective, but that's everything from in our restaurant, for example, offering those the guest might be booked on a package, but offering, whether they would like a cake or, another hot drink, or it's all of those small key touch points. Or it might be that we've done a few taster a smoothie taster, and actually it's made somebody then want to go and buy go and sit in the cafe and
I am that person.
Yeah. But it's experience first rather than the driver being the only sort of the commercial driver. We're trying to create experiences which then has the commercial output at the end.
Do you know, one of the things I really picked up on when I was in the thermal area was the cleansing bar you had.
Yes.
Because I was that person who obviously had lovely lunch with you, and then I'd gone in and I hadn't taken my mascara off, come out of a steam room, but perfectly placed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Use the product, no push to retail, but just putting it on, just was there as part of my experience. But what a nice touch point to have, and a non-expensive thing to do. There was no need for a person to be there. It was just something that was there at the right time, at the right moment. And I really, that really stood out.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's those they're not in your face, they're not loud, they're just there, but actually there's a need for them. Like there's so many guests that would go in there and have a need to take off their makeup, and they might never have tried a more professional branded product, a spa product, and actually that just sets them on a whole journey to discovering a new retail product for themselves, and it just plants the seed.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you also touched on in the restaurant about upselling. And I think that that's something that we all go on quite a bit about in the industry, but people don't actually still often do it. So it's really easy. I was talking to Courtney at Four Seasons, and she was saying how they upsell a mask and a facial. She said, if we just say, would you like it? It's part of it doesn't take any more therapist time, but it gets another product in, and it boosts your retail. And I think it's when it's just slipped in super casually, people are more likely to buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they can see that there's a benefit for them, and it just feels like a little luxury, a little moment for themselves. And yeah, absolutely, it's a nice thing to do. Again, experience led.
Yeah, it's while I'm here, why not? That's my
Yeah, absolutely. I am that person. If I go into anywhere, I'm like, oh yeah, go on. Why not? Why not?
See, yes, I'd have had a shot of smoothie and bought one.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
um, so I think so. Obviously, with retail, we would be amiss if we didn't talk a bit about recruitment and retention. I
Yes.
think that is an industry-wide challenge that we have.
Yes, of
And
course.
working with brilliant Joe Joe Harris, who's run a survey about this, because we are seeing that beauty therapists from their courses aren't necessarily transitioning into
Yeah,
the
of
spa
course.
environment. I think like almost 50% said I want to go and set up my own business.
Yeah.
Um, so how are you handling that? What's the biggest impact? What are you trying to do with like team engagement and getting people committed long term within your operation, considering how long you've worked for Center Parcs?
Yeah.
You must be doing something right.
Yeah, I think for me, one thing that surprised me when I started for Center Parcs was as I said, started 12 and a half years ago. I went to Elvedon, one of our other villages, to do a bit of a job shadow and to learn from one of the treatment assistant managers there. And I remember vividly sitting in the office and talking to the other management team there. And I asked them, how long had you worked here? And all of them were 10 plus years to around 20 years of that they'd worked there, which was unheard of in the industry. Like, I hadn't worked anywhere that had that longevity, and I thought, what is going on here? I don't quite understand it. At the time, I didn't understand it, and now I'm 12 and a half years later, and it feels like it's gone by like a flash. And I totally get it, and I think it really is about not only consistency is a big thing for me, so consistent approach to how you manage the team, and the level, so which I can go into, but also I think the culture, and I know a lot of people say about the culture, but the culture is a big thing for us. So and it's a lot of hard work, it doesn't come easy, but consistency is key. And I think some ways that we do that is that we have and this isn't rewriting any sort of playbook, it's no magic secret, but it is the consistency that is the key. So we have daily huddles with every single staff member of the team, so no matter what time they've come in, so whether they are on a 7 o'clock in the morning shift or they're on a 2:30 in the sort of afternoon shift, every single person will have a briefing, and they will be able to understand what's going on for the day. They'll have management presence in there so that they can ask any questions that they may have. We do some education, we do some wellbeing within those, and they can be literally 10 to 15 minutes. They don't have to be a huge amount of time, but it's really valued because it is that one time, not that one time of the day, but you are bringing together a team and a community of people that are going to be working that shift together. And so they completely understand, they can communicate really well, and communication obviously is key in
Yeah.
a lot of these big operations. So and that's just a daily thing. And then we have divisional team meetings, we have socials, we do a lot of wellbeing activities together. So we'll hold little social occasions where we might have sound bathing session, or a sauna ritual, or something for the team to come together. We'll do like a pizza and quiz night. So we make it so that there is consistency throughout the year and throughout the period, the months, that is consistent. So the team always have that. We have open forums, we call them coffee mornings, where the team can come. We have like a representation from each of the therapy team, the spa team, the restaurant team, and they will all come together and they have a bit of a forum with the general manager and the operations manager. So if there is anything that they want to raise, they got that platform to be able to raise it. And I think that is sort of the magic formula really is that, and then there is the education and the career progression and the training aspect that layers on top of that. So you've got the communication piece, but then you've got the development piece that comes next. So
Mm.
development is again is a massive thing for us. So we have a trainer at every single site that they are there solely to deliver training to our big
Wow.
teams, and that can be anything from induction training to therapy training to health and safety training, anything like that. They would deliver on site. They are product brand ambassadors, so they would train our Elemis or Voya or Comfort Zone treatments to the team as well. And they have that point of call where they've got an expert within the business at all times. And then we have like career pathways so that people can progress up. So, we've had people from apprenticeships that are now in management roles, and we do management
Amazing.
apprenticeships. And so I suppose there is no, like I said, there's not a magic formula, but it's consistency, and it's communication of like making sure that everyone knows that how valued they are, and that everyone, no matter what role they play, plays a part in delivering the overall offer to the guests. So everything from the laundry team to the cleaning team to the tech services team, technical services team, everyone has their part to play to make it a great business and a great operation to run.
It's really interesting what you say about the consistency across departments, because what I often see and what I've often done is where you have your therapist team and they get in a huddle, and then you have your restaurant team, but actually doing it across departments at every time of day it's such a simple suggestion, but
Mm-hmm.
actually it's got such a power to it.
Yeah. And I think it creates less division between the teams as well. It just, you're one team, you're all working in the one operation to deliver the same experience, in different ways to all of our guests. But our guests are, they're living and breathing that one experience. So actually, as a team, we should be delivering the same. So yeah, which is our ethos really, which is worked for us. So.
Yeah, and fostering community, I'm a massive fan. As you know,
Absolutely.
it's community, isn't it? But also
Yeah.
the transparency in those career paths as well. Everyone can see the possibilities ahead of them,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's not, oh well, I've been given an opportunity, or it's actually this is what you can achieve from this point all the way through to this point,
Yeah.
because here's a progression path for you.
And I think some people, I've seen some great examples of this, especially when I was back in managing the team directly. You might have some amazing therapists, and their pathway would naturally be going to a senior therapist, and then maybe up to a shift manager, and then into management. But if there was no positions available within that senior therapist, area, but there might be one over in the spa side. So in the spa, we have some supervisors as well that manage all of the guest experience within there, and it's a little bit more technical with lifeguarding and experience management and pool plant room management. They would never have thought of that before, but
Mm.
actually sometimes you can take that path and actually you can end up back where you were going to be, but you've learn all of these new skills, and sometimes you just have to have the people there that can kind of show you and guide that pathway, because you can see that they would be fantastic at it, but that's not necessarily in their mind. Their mind is I'm a therapist, I'm going to go this route, but actually there's another route that can be taken. And I think it's having that management team there as well to be able to foster and help that career progression for the team as well.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the reasons people do leave, because they can't see that. They
Yeah.
get to where they think they are. They've learnt these amazing treatments and product houses, they do, but then they go, oh, well, what's next? And what
Yeah.
you often see is people will jump ship and try somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then they find that there is nothing, the grass is
Yeah.
definitely greener. But
Yeah.
actually, what spas should be doing is not letting them, or having that need, not giving them that need to look if they can move somewhere else, just by
Yeah.
being more, considered in the way that they might develop that person. And like you say,
Yeah.
it's not always therapist, treatment manager, it's actually what else is there. And
Yeah.
someone might find that they enjoy working for a different department.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
And then, so I'm on to my final question. So this is a
Okay.
looking ahead one.
Yes, yes.
What operational or strategic shifts do you believe spa managers need to prioritize over the next 3 to 5 years to remain both relevant and profitable?
Good
Mm.
question. Always a tough one, I think, with this, but I wrote myself a few notes down because I think there's a lot of noise in the industry about, how technology is going to change the industry, and I absolutely, we were talking about it before, but I absolutely think technology absolutely has a place. However, hands-on is still king for me, and we use
Mm.
technology as a helping aid, let's just say. So, yeah, so that was one of my sort of key points. But I think for me, spas need to diversify from being a just a standard spa day. So a standard spa day is amazing, but people, our consumers are looking for so much more than that.
Yes.
You see more retreats popping up. You see local sauna houses and sauna businesses popping up in local environments, in different type of environments to what we've ever seen before. And I think we need to move
Mm.
with that in mind. And I think, how do you diversify what a standard spa day looks like into, can you create like a retreat concept or more personalized spa day for that particular guest need? And I think that's one of the key things is how do you you might have your operation, but how can you make that more personalized to what guests are actually looking for? And there's lots of trends out there, isn't there, on longevity, and is that the realm that you want to go down? Or but I do think you need to be a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of the guests are going to be looking for it, and how can you create an offer to that guest whilst still maintaining who you are as your business. I think that we've got two other sort of key points is the younger demographic, and
Mm.
those teens. Teens for me are something that we're just starting to really tap into, because
Yeah.
within our environment, we have a lot of younger people within our environment. Our spa accepts 14s and up, as long as they are with 18-year-old plus.
Uh-huh.
However, I think there's a lot of um, need, I think, for teen treatments or younger demographic treatments.
Mm.
We go from, I think I've spoken about this before, but we go from, baby massage. Baby massage is a big thing. And then basically until you're 18, you can't have anything. And what is the gap in between? And I think we really need to understand what that gap can be, what we can do, what we can't do. And I think people are starting to get into that, but I do think there's a market for that, because we've got a lot of younger demographic that do suffer with mental and emotional needs and mental health issues. And how can we help with that? How can we as spa businesses help with that? And how can we help maybe foster that with carers or parents and child spa days, for example.
Mm.
And yeah, so I think there's a sort of a younger demographic market. I think personalization and retreat concepts, I think, are another thing. And I think technology, for me, I think we absolutely need to use it. But we do need to, for me personally, I would say we need to remember that hands-on is king, in my opinion, and we use technology as an aid moving forward. So
Well, I
yeah,
mean,
and I
you mentioned it earlier, your technology for your scheduling.
yes,
Perfect.
yes,
Scheduling that it helps your scheduling become easier, but you're still delivering a hands-on treatment. So that it's there in the
exactly,
background, isn't it?
exactly. So yeah, and I'm sure there's probably more that I can think of, but those are my sort of key areas. And I think sauna culture has been amazing. I think
Mm.
that is current and trending now, and I don't think that's going to leave us. I think that is just going to continue on, and I
Yeah.
think there's going to be even bigger, better sauna steam room experiences, pop-ups that are just going to continue, which I think is great, because it's very common in the European market. That is quite normal, whereas actually for us in the UK it's not so, but it's getting more readily available.
Yeah, that was something I spoke to about Deborah and Andrew about actually, is the fact that there is a massive sauna culture coming through the UK at the moment.
Mm,
Bars need to look at how they can tap in
yeah,
to that. I know people see it as a trend, but I think it's very much here to stay. How do you get that person who's going to a sauna in a woodland and wild swimming?
yeah,
How do you bring them in and introduce them to spa? How do
yeah,
you bring that guest
yeah,
in is a real key strategy, I think, because it is more, £15, £20 compared to a spa day. But how
yeah,
do you add enough value the right way to say, actually, we can do what you're doing, but we've
yeah.
got all this amazing up value that you can have if you come into the spa environment.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Oh, Laura, thank you so much. It's
No
been
worries.
fantastic. You are have so much information and insight to share, and I think it's great because I think sometimes people, a spa manager early on in their career, thinks, oh, I want to know a bit more about someone like Laura who does a group spa manager position, and actually, it's just shown how approachable you are. So thank you so
Yeah,
much. I really appreciate it.
no worries. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.